We're back with you, America. Bill Martinez here, and we've got our next guest, Brian Alakhani, an Iranian immigrant, is joining us to reveal his take on what he calls the real events of the Middle East. It's all in his controversial book titled Untethered, True Children of Cyrus. Brian, thank you for coming on the show. How are you?
Excellent. How are you this morning?
I'm doing terrific. I'm looking forward to this conversation here when we talk about the real events of the Middle East, because I believe in the West, shamelessly, we're probably a bit too arrogant, and we think we have a better understanding of thousands of years of history coming from a country that's, maybe all total 400 years old.
Exactly. Well, it's pretty close to 400 years, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm saying 400 since the Pilgrims celebrated the first Christmas, because the first Thanksgiving, because this past Thanksgiving was the celebration of the 400th, celebration of Thanksgiving. So 400 and a couple extra days or years possibly, depending on how you want to. But nonetheless, you get my point, is that you're talking thousands of years of history there in the Middle East. So tell us about your book, your thoughts on factors that have led to this Iranian Revolution of 1979.
Absolutely. I think 400 glorious years of America is worth 4,000 years. The story is about an Iranian student and his sister who leave home to attend high school abroad. Shortly after they leave their country of origin, unforeseen events force the students to fend for themselves in a foreign country while they witness their homeland self-destruct in a misguided, unstoppable revolution that slings it back to the dark ages. And then the book gives 10 factors that led to the Iranian Revolution of 1979. And one of those factors is Jimmy Carter's administration, and I call them inept administration in terms of foreign policies. So we're today living with the unintended consequences of their flawed foreign policies that led to this. There were allegations by some American writers, and there were records of financial records that Jimmy Carter actually funded the revolution, and he supported the Ayatollah, who shortly after he seized power took Americans hostage. That was embarrassing for me. And so those factors, one of them was Jimmy Carter, and there are 9 other factors. The readers have to read the book.
Yeah. Well, help people understand, from your perspective, because this is your home country. What was it that Jimmy Carter? Wait, hang on. What was it that Jimmy Carter believed that caused him to turn his back on the Shah?
That's a great question. I mean, not only Jimmy Carter, the whole Western media, BBC especially, had a leading role on that. Shah had quadrupled the prices of oil in 1973-74 timeframe during the OPEC, and then that crippled the economy of the United Kingdom. It damaged the economy of the United States. Jimmy Carter always believed in human rights, and in his opinion, Shah could have done a better job of human rights. And those factors, and the fact that he had bad advisors such as Cyrus Vance and Hamilton Jordan, and people like Brzezinski was probably the best one, and the worst of all was William Sullivan, the ambassador of the United States in Iran, who had a proven track record of losing every country he served. Those folks got wrong information, gave Jimmy Carter wrong information, so he was not given correct information to help the situation. In fact, he defended the Ayatollah, and those Western media overnight turned his granite face to a Gandhi-like figure without reading his books. How horrible this man was. Some of the quotations of the quotations of Ayatollah Khomeini were comic. I mean, this man had one quotation that says, a university is not a university unless it's a university. In another quotation, he encourages men to have sexual interaction with infants. And so that's the level of atrocity, the damage that we're talking about.
Well, it seems that this is a model that we've seen happen before, and you're there in your country, and you're watching this insanity take place, and you're wondering what is going on. But this is what happens when outside influences come in, and they take over, and you have a regime change that is just probably so shocking for Iranians.
Exactly. I was here when the revolution happened. So this is one of the few books written by anybody who has witnessed the revolution from distance. And it is a different perspective because if you're in that revolution, it's so chaotic, people don't have time to think what's right or wrong. I believe people who were not in Iran had a better view of what's going on in Iran because they were not caught with surprise like the Iraq-Iran war or anything like that, and all the uprisings in the streets. So I witnessed it. When I left Iran, everything was rosy, cozy. It was a modern country. Shah was a progressive leader. And now we transitioned the country with, like you said, 4,000 years of history, 5,000 years of history. The oldest city in the world is in Iran, 9,000 years. We transitioned this country from our literacy corps to stoning women to death. That's a type of transition this country went through, and I witnessed that. Yes, I did witness that.
Yeah. Well, this is the story of totalitarian regimes, is it not? I mean, and it is seemingly, again, a consistent model that has taken place throughout the Middle East. And sometimes, sadly, what seems to be a common denominator is when the West gets their nose involved in something they don't understand. Is that a fair statement?
It is a fair statement. The Islamic Revolution in Iran replaced the truth with deceit. Elegance got exchanged for clumsiness. Contention has overrides harmony. The world, in my opinion, declined deeply when a regime like that seized power and wrote its darkest pages in history. They have killed so many people since they seized power. Killing for them is like drinking water here. They
Sadly,
don't have any. Yeah, they don't have any empathy or any regard, any rationale for killing people.
Do you wonder what's wrong with the Western media, that they have failed to be the harbingers of the truth and to protect the innocent?
That's a great question. At the time of the revolution, the Western media wrongfully thought, I don't know what the agenda was, that they could become friends with Ayatollah. And they failed to understand his true nature. In order to do so, they should have read his books and quotations. And figured out who he is. Every time he gives a rocket, the Iranian government, we're in a nuclear negotiation. We're in a very tough spot. I mean, after losing a true ally like Shah, we have to kind of talk to the Saudis, and they have nurtured the biggest house of terrorists in the world, the 9/11 terrorists. They were all from Saudi Arabia. I don't trust that government. And then the Iranian government is worse than the Saudis. So we're in a very rough position right now. And then we're forced to negotiate with these bloodthirsty rulers of Iran. And they take the money, like the last time, and they buy rockets and they give them to the Palestinians, and the Palestinians launch them in Israel. It is not to the benefit of any American taxpayer and Iranian people when Israel gets bombed by those rockets.
Brian,
a single dollar was spent on the Iranian people. It was all spent on terrorism.
Exactly. Brian, author of the book Untethered, True Children of Cyprus. This is so rich in history and gives you a clearer understanding of what happened in regard to the Iranian Revolution and its impact on the region as well as the world. One final question here as we wrap up, Brian, if you'd be so kind. Tell our audience where they can go for more information.
That's a good question. Go to Amazon, please, and try type The True Children of Cyrus. That's the best way of finding it. The True Children of Cyrus. And it will come out with the author's name, Brian Alakani. There is a Kindle version. There is a hard copy version. And the book has had a great rating by the people who read it. The story of the student and his sister are very compelling. And they will lock you to the chair because you don't know what's going to happen to their lives the next day. So it's almost like a movie. It's not almost like a fiction.
Well, maybe coming to be a movie, no doubt, because it's so rich and it's a great story. Untethered, True Children of Cyrus. Brian Alakani has been with us. Brian, thank you. Take care.
Thank you.